Welcome to the Stress Free Dentist Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Eric Block. As always, I want to inspire, entertain, and educate you on the best tools and technologies out there. My goal is to help make your practice and career more profitable, efficient, and most importantly, more enjoyable. And check out all of my nonfiction and children's books on Amazon, and check out the stressfreedentist.com for any upcoming events. And if you're feeling you're a dental professional that's burnt out, or you just feel stuck or want to get to that next level, visit the International Academy of Dental Life Coaches, or www.iadlc.com, and we'll get you matched up with a life coach that understands dentistry. I also wanted to thank our amazing sponsor, Equa Marketing. They have helped me and my practice over the years to improve with SEO and website performance. And to find out how you can make your practice dominate in your area, go to www.equa.com/MSMSFD to book your complimentary meeting. Again, that's www.ekwa.com/MSMSFD. All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode. And I am joined by Dr. Rich Madow, which sounds like shadow. How you doing today, Richard?
I'm doing great, Eric Blocky, which sounds like hockey. It is so great to be here. I really, really admire what you're doing. I love stress-free, and it's so cool that that's your theme, that you teach so many different things, but they all center around being a stress-free dentist. So way to go. You're doing great stuff.
Yeah, and make no mistake, dentistry is hard. There's going to be lots of stress, but it's how you deal with it, and you understand that this is a marathon, not a sprint. There's going to be ups and downs, and don't let it, don't beat yourself up when something doesn't go your way is really my motto. And thank you again for uh the forward on my second book, Stress Free Dental Implants, and you've been a real inspiration to me. And at the end of the podcast, I want to share a phony phone call that I did, because to me, you are like the Andre Agassi of dental phony phone calls. So I wanted to pay homage to you and do another phony phone call with you at the end.
Yeah, my mom is so proud of me. She's 89 and she still says, Rich, I can't believe you do phony phone calls for a living. And it's funny, I reflect back on my time growing up as a little kid in Baltimore with my two brothers who are just as zany as I am. And we did so many phony phone calls. It was like our form of amusement. Of course, this was before caller ID, so it was the wild, wild west of phony phone calls. And whoever thought that all these years later, I'd still be doing them, but for dentistry. It's crazy, and I'm glad you enjoy them.
Yeah, your podcast is, I love it. It's like 20 minutes long each episode. It's short and sweet, but I always learn something, and it's always super entertaining. And then you end it off with these mystery shopper calls, which you learn so much from these calls. And I feel like, when people get up on stage and show me their best stuff, I'm not learning, but if they show me their mistakes and failures, I learn more from those any day of the week.
Yeah, and thank you for pointing out that even though we're joking around and calling them phony phone calls, they are actually dental practice mystery shopper calls. And even though they can be fun, they can be funny, they're done with a purpose. And that, of course, is to teach anyone in the dental office. You don't have to be a member of the front desk team. Everybody should know how to handle a phone call properly, how to get a new patient off the phone and into the appointment book, how to answer patients' questions about anything. So even though they can be quite amusing, our idea is to make them learning exercises. But mystery shopper, phony phone call them whatever you want.
Yeah, they're super funny. If you haven't listened to them, you have to. And again, you'll come out with each one learning something that you can take back to your practice. And in 1989, you started the Madow Center for Dental Practice Success. Is that right?
That's correct. 1989. I have a feeling you weren't born yet. I'm not sure, but no, you were born. You were already on your way. You were probably in high school in 1989, right?
I was
Um,
probably dressed, I was 14 and probably dressed like, Andre Agassi with the jean shorts. But yeah, go on. Tell me,
I admire that.
yeah.
Um, I, Well, just for listeners who aren't familiar with what I've been doing all these years, I'm an actual dentist, unlike most of the, I'll make air quotes for those of you who are listening, air quotes, practice management people. And there are so many great people out there helping dentists and dental practices, but many of them have never held a handpiece. Many of them have never fought with an insurance company, led a team, been know what it's like to prep the distal of tooth number two in a patient who's squirming and salivating. This is a brotherhood and sisterhood that dentists and dental team members as well have that other people just can't understand. So, when somebody kind of comes into this arena and they're a businessman and they're saying we can get more clients for your business, it's like there are just some things that we understand that others don't. And that's why when I made the move from owning my full-time practice to starting to have some associates, not practicing quite as much, and then going out and teaching and lecturing and developing products for dental practices and all those things, I felt really good about what I was doing because I did it in my practice and I know that these things work, and I help, I don't know, thousands, tens of thousands of practices along the way. So it's been a crazy, crazy, great journey. And I'm still out there on the road lecturing all the time. I really think my seminars are like nothing else because besides the incredible content, there's music, there's comedy. I hope anybody listening, if I'm coming to your town soon, I feel like I'm promoting a rock concert here. Coming to your town soon, you come and see me. I'd love to see you there. And I'll tell you something. The number one comment I get these days, besides, hey, it was a great seminar, we learned so much, whatever. I just wrote about this in my email newsletter. Is, hey, Rich, it was really good, but I wish I would have brought my team. And I just cannot stress enough. Dental learning is for the entire team. I feel like I'm rambling here and going way off topic from what you asked me, but um, it's so important to get your team involved in everything you do. And if you want to really be stress free, you need to have a team that understands the systems and protocols and the whys of what you're doing and why it's so important to get your patients dentally healthy, and your stress level will go down incredibly. That was not the answer to the question you asked, but here we are.
Yeah, I agree. You can't do this yourself, and nor should you. You need your team on board with you. It's super important to understand, why you're doing what you're doing, and to get them on board. And I struggle with that every day as being a leader. It's something I struggle with. So having a group like yours that can help the dentist and their team, I think is super important.
Well, and one of the things we stress with the practices we work with, especially the team, is I know financial goals are super important. You need to know your data. Obviously, you're running a business. You can't just fly by the seat of your pants. But I think when you start talking about just financial goals, new patient numbers, et cetera, to the team, after a while, and rightfully so, they just kind of blank out. And I love to stress that our job is to get our patients healthy. So, speaking of our mystery shopper calls, if a potential new patient calls and you don't have the skills to get that patient in the appointment book, you just lost the chance to make that patient healthy. If you present treatment to a patient and don't know how to explain it and don't know how to get them excited and enthusiastic, you've just lost the chance to make that patient healthy. So a healthy patient base will inevitably lead to higher revenue and a happier practice. But it can't be about the money or all about the money. We really love to stress that the team has to be on board to making your patients healthy, to providing the most amazing experience, to having your patients look forward to coming into your practice. And when you do all those things, well, yeah, your revenues will be great and your overhead will be lower
So
and your
this
stress will be lower. Well, let's
Oh
add
yeah,
that.
and that's everyone needs that. Um,
Yeah.
and I've seen, I've listened to your podcast, I've seen your articles. One of the topics that I love, and we talked about this, is five dental phrases that you're tired of hearing. And I love this topic. Let's go through some of these. And this is when you listen to Richard, you'll start hearing these topics, and again, they're entertaining, educational, and fun, and you'll learn a ton. So let's start going through some of the top dental phrases that are annoying to you.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, I'll start with possibly my favorite one. I'm going to go into my whiny dentist voice because dentists love to whine and complain. Look, Eric, we're both dentists. We probably whine and complain quite a bit too. So I'm not saying we're immune. Um, I love this line. I hate this line. Well, Rich, you don't understand my practice. My dentists have a low dental IQ. And when I hear that, I like just picture a new patient comes in and they take them into a little room and like Prometrics is there and they're administering a dental IQ test. It's like I say, that's the most ridiculous phrase. Of course, your patients have a low dental IQ. Your patients aren't DDS, DMD, RDH. They have a low dental IQ. I want my patients to have a low dental IQ. That's why they come to me. And I know the phrase educate your patients can be taken several ways, but I don't think we need to turn our patients into dentists or dental team members. I can't stand it when I see dentists using dental lingo with patients as if they understand, and the patient's sitting there saying, uh-huh, uh-huh, uh-huh. What the hell is this guy talking about? And how much is it going to cost? And then they just walk out. It's like, I like to say, I have a low plumbing IQ, right? And that's why when my sink is backed up, I call a plumber. And I don't want the plumber to come in here and teach me everything about sinks. I want the plumber to efficiently and quickly fix my sink so it works again and then hand me a bill, which I'm more than willing to pay. Patients, yes, they have low dental IQs. That's a good thing. And it's up to us to speak to them in language that will resonate with them and not language that sounds like you just published an article in the ADA journal. So stop complaining that your patients have a low dental IQ and start celebrating.
Like you said, I want them to have a low IQ, and I think it's a huge red flag if a patient comes in and they know the teeth numbers and they start pointing around and giving this whole history. To me, that's like, okay, something's going on here. Like this patient knows way too much. Um, I
And you're going to be the next victim.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I tell my staff uh associates, speak in lay terms, speak like you're talking to my 8-year-old son. Make it super simple that everyone can understand, because if you start talking over their head, they're going to get intimidated and they may not move forward with treatment. So I think that's, on us to explain treatments and educate them the way that they can understand it.
Yeah, I so agree. And it's unfortunate that dental lingo is so second nature to us that so many dental people don't even think it's just our language, and that's good. We need to communicate to other healthcare professionals. But, even simple terms that we take for granted, composite, crown margin, scaling and root planing, patients have no idea what you're talking about. One example is I love it when a hygienist, when they're about to probe a patient, instead of saying, like, we're going to use a periodontal probe to check for gingivitis or periodontitis. It's like it's just something that patients could understand would be, we're going to check your gums for infection and inflammation, and we use a little instrument that's like a ruler that tells us how tightly your gums are attached to your teeth. Just a phrase like that, everybody understands. And then when they hear that their gums are attached to their teeth and they're getting inflammation and infection, they want treatment. So the it's not dumbing it down because our patients aren't dumb. They're just not dentists.
Yeah, and when I roll in there, I don't say, "Hey, Judy, you have a distal craze line on the distal buccal margin of an old, of amalgam restoration. You need a full coverage zirconia restoration." I'll say, "Judy, you have your old silver filling on a tooth that you have had since you were 6 years old is starting to leak and get decayed. We need to clean it up and put a crown, a cap or crown on it." They're going to understand that more, and more often they're going to move forward with treatment when you make it simple for them. So I love that the low dental
Good stuff.
IQ comment.
Yeah, cool. All right, should we keep going on this list?
Let's go to number two.
All right, number two. Just like you, I'm on everybody's email list. I get like 50 dental emails per day, and many of them are clinical and they're great articles, but I also get emails from other consultants. And you look, let's face it, you always want a subject line that's a little clickbaity to get people to open it, or else your email just goes unheard, right? But I always get these emails that says, like, here's how to drop all your PPOs today, or you should drop all your PPOs today, et cetera, et cetera. And I don't think we need to get into a debate about is a true fee for service practice better than an insurance dependent practice. I think, it's got to be your style, your demographic, et cetera, et cetera. But look, everyone's frustrated with PPOs. Their reimbursements seem to be getting worse and worse and worse. Um, but I think it's really dangerous when somebody is telling you that the solution to all your practice woes are to drop your PPOs immediately. And I hear it all the time. Oh, don't worry, just drop your PPOs. The patients are good. But it's if you want to drop your PPOs, and I'm not saying that it's a good move, but if you want to drop some or all of your PPOs, it has to be done extremely strategically. You need a long-term plan in place, a 1 year window at least, so you can personally meet with every patient and talk to them about it, so that you have the chance to keep that patient in your practice. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen a dentist say, I'm sick of these PPOs. I'm sending out a letter today saying that I'm not taking your insurance anymore. And boom, the practice really takes a huge hit that they didn't have to. So, yes, a full fee for service practice is awesome. But I've seen a lot of practices do really, really well and still have a decent percentage of PPO participation. It can be done. You need to be super efficient. You need to know how to get your patients excited about treatment that may not be covered or not covered well by the PPO so that you can maximize the revenues and health of that patient. There's a lot of strategy involved, and it's never as simple as just this PPO sucks, I'm going to drop it. So I've seen some real nightmares when that happens.
Yeah, if it can be a disaster if you don't, especially if you don't have your team on board and all the verbiage in place. And we did it over a 4-year period. So like you said, we did it strategically. We made some mistakes. We started with the smaller insurances, and we learned from those mistakes. Um, but for us, it was all just about building those relationships with patients, getting the staff with the right verbiage, and we were able to do it successfully. But I could see it going very wrong if you don't do it right.
Coach, I love that. It can go wrong if you don't do it right. I mean, that's sheer profundity right there. That's unbelievable. And something else, another mistake I've seen people make is, first of all, I don't like to do it in a letter or an email. It's got to be done face to face. But they'll say, well, we're no longer participating with your insurance because some version of their fees are too low. They don't pay us enough. That is not music to the patient's ears. It's just then they think it's just about making the doctor wealthy, and they think you're already wealthy anyway. It's you the reason that you're not participating anymore is because the restrictions of that insurance company won't allow you to provide the great treatment that the patient deserves. They're getting in the way of the doctor-patient relationship, and you don't like that. But the great news is you can still come to our practice. It's just it will be structured differently. So never, ever, ever make it about money, even if it is about money. To the patient's point of view, it's got to be about something that benefits them.
Yeah, yeah, we really just focused on it's all about keeping our quality of care at the highest level for you as the patient. We just stuck to that playbook. All right, let's move on
Great.
to number three.
Okay, number three, another kind of trite phrase I hear all the time is work-life balance. Now, that may sound like a nice thing. Of course, you have to have a great work-life balance. But the reason that phrase bugs me is because usually when you hear people talk about it, or give strategies or whatever to achieve the work-life balance, they're making the assumption that like life outside of work is great, life inside of work kind of sucks. And I call it the negative happiness equation. It's like people love their weekends and their evenings and their vacations and kind of make this work-life balance deal with themselves that they're going to sacrifice some time in the office of being maybe not so happy because all the other things they do outside of work cost money. You want to go out to the movies at night. You want to have your Netflix subscription, go out to dinner, go on a nice vacation. You need money for all this stuff. But don't have the negative happiness equation where you're kind of making even a subconscious deal. I'm willing to make myself a little bit miserable and unhappy at work so that I can be happy outside of work. That's work life balance. It's not work life balance. As a matter of fact, I think you don't really need a work life balance because you should enjoy going to your office. I know it sounds crazy to some dentists and team members. You should enjoy going to your office every single day. If you're getting the Sunday night blues and that sick feeling in your stomach when Sunday evening and Monday morning roll around, you are you have a negative happiness equation, and the work-life balance is not going to help you with that. Let's try to figure out a way that we enjoy our time off and we super, super, super enjoy the time in our practice. And I got to tell, I may create a faux pas here because I'm not sure when this podcast is being released, but you've got an upcoming summit, and a lot of it's going to be about um, being stress free and wellness inside of the dental practice. I'm so excited you asked me to participate in it, but that's the kind of stuff that it's all about. Let's learn how to enjoy our practices every single day.
Yeah, I mean, we often are at work more than we're at home, and I think a lot of being happy is having good, people you like work that you work with, having uh, enjoy the people that you work with. And when I used to look at the schedule, I'd be overwhelmed, but now I know we have it handled. My staff is pretty well trained on how I like to work. Um, Everyone seems to, there's ups and downs, but for the most part, everyone seems to get along, and that makes for such a nicer work environment when I do go to work.
It's true. It's so true. It's so much of it is about your team. It seems like this is one of our little themes here today. I don't know how much time we have, but I'll tell you a quick story that I call the seating chart rule. And that is many years ago, my brother Dave and I, he's a dentist as well, and he's my partner in the Madow Center. We had our holiday dinner. We went to the big fancy steakhouse downtown, 16 team members. And Dave and I get there early, and we're putting out little place cards at every seat. And we're saying, oh, we can't put Linda next to Harry because they can't stand each other. And we can't put Gabrielle next to Bernetta because they're going to be whispering and gossiping and finger pointing all night. And help, I'm sitting next to Erica. It's like, and we're going on and on. And then we look at each other and say, this is nuts. This is our business. We're here every day. We're working with 16 people, and we're worried about two people can't sit next to each other. And this one doesn't like this one. And I don't want to sit next to that one. And we said, this is it. This is the last time we're doing this. Our goal is we're going to meet here 1 year from now for our holiday dinner, and we will not need place cards because everybody, including us, will get along. And most people, most of the team thought it was an incredible goal. Some didn't respond that well. We had to have some leadership lessons with them and get them to realize that this is going to be a better work environment, and they did great. One person just couldn't quite get it, and unfortunately we had to offer her a job opportunity elsewhere, as they say. And I never come into an office and recommend firing someone. I hate firing people. It's a last resort. But the few times I've had to do it, I've always said, what took me so long? So, sometimes there's that person in your office and everybody knows it's just stressing everyone out to have them in your presence. So, food for thought, maybe, to our listeners.
Yeah, that's such a great analogy as the seating chart. I think everyone can relate to that. All right, let's go on to number 4.
Okay, number 4 phrase that drives me crazy is scale your practice. Now, I'm not going to say anything bad about the millennials. I don't know if you're a millennial. You might be a little older than a millennial.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, my kids are millennials. I love the millennials. I think they take a bad rap. I think they're so hardworking and so cool and so great. But there's always a but. For some reason, I see a lot of millennials on dental online groups, lectures, whatever, and their goal is to scale their practice. I mean, let's just scale our patients. I don't know, scale your practice. And a lot of times, or many times, that means multiple practices. I've got my practice. I want to open up a second practice, a third practice, a fourth practice, a fifth practice. I want to create this little empire, back off of clinical practice. This is going to be my, whatever, road to unlimited gold devotion or whatever you want to call it. This is my master plan. And some people can do it and do it really well. And if you can, that's super cool. But what I see is somebody has a mediocre practice and they think that, well, this practice is okay. So my answer is going to be to open up a second location or a satellite location, another phrase I can't stand. It's like this office that rotates around the other office or revolves. I don't get the whole satellite name. But I would say, sure, multiple practice ownership is great for some people, but unless your first main practice is operating incredibly efficiently, you've got all the systems in place, your leadership skills are awesome, Your schedule's packed to the gills. You couldn't fit another patient in there if you tried, and you've got this formula down, and everyone is doing great, and your overhead is super low. Then maybe think about opening your second practice, because most of the time I see somebody opens a second practice, it doubles their overhead, it quadruples their headaches, and they wind up regretting it and selling the whole thing at a fire sale. And I don't want that to happen to any of your listeners. So I'm going to scale my practice, not a phrase that I love.
Yeah, personally, I'd rather have one large practice than, multiple practices. It's one staff that I have to focus on, and I even struggle with that, with the one staff. Some of the practice owners that I know that have two offices, some say they regret it. So, I
Yeah,
agree. You may just be compounding your headaches and stress.
totally agree. And I got to tell you, a dentist that I'm friends with um, has one practice. It's like, I don't know, 600 square feet or something. He has one hygienist, one assistant, one front desk team member, and he nets over $1 million a year. So
Mhm.
it's not always about crazy size, multiple practices. You can do great things with a small footprint. Absolutely can.
Awesome. All right, let's go on to the fifth and final one.
Our fifth and final phrase that bugs me is something that I'd say over half the people say when they contact me to talk about their practice and how we can help them. They say, we need more new patients. It's like a mantra. Everybody's repeating it. We need more new patients. And, it's the promise of all the big marketing companies. We're going to get you more new patients. And we love new patients, of course. I would never say not to get more new patients. But so many times I'll look more deeply into a practice where the dentist owner is saying we need more new patients and find out a few things. First of all, they've got somebody at the front desk who's really nice, really smart, very kind, good to the patients, but they couldn't put a new patient on the schedule if they were dangling right in front of them. And we started this conversation talking about our mystery shopper calls. No one can appoint a new patient. It's unbelievable. Sometimes we do some funny things and, goofy calls, but my typical mystery shopper call is what a typical potential new patient would ask. How much is a cleaning? Do you have Saturday hours? Do you see kids? Do you do braces? Do you take my insurance? All those things. That's what a typical new patient asks. And as you know, I would say fewer than 5% of the mystery shopper calls result in them trying to schedule the patient. I'm not saying that people aren't nice. They can be nice, give accurate information, be warm, welcoming, and at the end of the call, they'll just say, do you have any other questions? Or is there anything else I can help you with? So there's a practice like that. You are losing patients that are already calling. They're already calling your office, yet you're willing to spend 10,000 a month on marketing. The same thing's going to happen. You're still going to lose all those patients too. And another thing we see is um, patients who have been in, but they haven't been in 12 months or longer. They're slipping through the cracks. They're going through the back door, whatever you want to call it. And a reactivation campaign is free. It's extremely efficient if you know how to do it correctly. And those patients already like you. They know where you are. You've got all their information, blah, 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 blah. Those are the lowest of the low hanging fruit. It costs so much money to get a new patient in the office when meanwhile, people are calling and not being appointed. And most practices have this backlog of patients who have slipped through the cracks and they're just waiting to be contacted to come back in again.
Yeah, you said it's so much cheaper and easier to reactivate an existing patient. Maybe they haven't been in a bit, but easier to get them than it is a new patient. And I feel like some dentists are just hooked like a drug. That drug is the new patient, and they just want more new patients, more new patients, more new patients. And what's happening to all of your existing patients? Why do you keep needing these new patients? Something's going on there that you got to fix.
Yes,
Um,
good point. Good point. If you're losing too many new patients, you got to look inside. Why are people coming back? It's so true. And I'll give you a quick reactivation tip too, because so many practices when they say, "Well, we've got 800 patients who haven't been in, and let's try to reactivate them," and they just say to Jennifer at the front desk, sorry to all you Jennifers out there, it just sounded like a good name to use. Let's say to Jennifer, the front desk, Jennifer, when you've got some time, start calling these patients who have never been in. Well, first of all, she doesn't have time. So you've got to have dedicated time. Like Jennifer, Friday morning from 9 a.m. to noon, you're going to go in the back in the private office, no, not sitting at the front desk, and do the reactivation campaign. So you got to have dedicated time. Secondly, you can't just say, go through all the charts alphabetically. We're going to start with Aaron Aardvark and start contacting everyone until you come to Zelda's Zweiback. And then you got to do it strategically, triage it like an emergency room would. Patients who haven't been in 12 months, have a lot better chance of coming in than a patient who hasn't been in 40 months. So start with those patients who are, more frequently in. Start with the patients who have a lot of treatment needs, or they really need to come in. It's super important, and that'll be better for revenue also. So you can't just say do it when you have time. You can't just start doing it alphabetically. Do it strategically. It makes a humongous difference.
Awesome. I usually use the name Judy because that's my mom's name. So whenever I'm using
I
a
love
family,
that.
yeah,
Judy
uh,
Block. I think I went to high school with her.
yeah, yeah. Unless it was in the Bronx, New York. That's where she grew up. But all right. So this is
She got out though, so.
yeah, this is a phone call I made. This was actually on a Saturday, and I thought it would, take me, 4 hours to find an office on a Saturday. And this is a recurring character I have, Stephen from New Hampshire. But this is a phone call I made. Again, this is in homage to you, the dental phone call king. Let's review this phony phone call and we can analyze it together, and hopefully the listeners can learn a few things.
Sounds
Um,
like fun.
all right, let's hit play.
This morning speaking. How may I help you?
Oh, hot dog, you're open.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Stephen from New Hampshire. I just moved down here, and I actually had a little bit of a problem. I just got a mini poodle, Baron, and he bumped my face. I was drinking a beer bottle, and I broke my front tooth.
Okay, yes, sir.
I feel like I was annoying her there, by the way.
I, I love the detail about how your poodle bumped into a beer bottle and chipped your tooth. That was just great detail.
I do have a mini poodle, and his name is Bandit, but I wanted to throw the name in there, Baron, just for fun. But the reason I did go to dental school is I did break my front tooth on a beer bottle, so there is some a reason for that story there. But
Were
let's
you, were you drinking it at the time, or were you like in a bar fight and somebody hit you with a beer bottle? And I hope it's the second one because that'll be a lot more exciting.
I just missed my mouth. It was embarrassing. It
That
just
is.
slammed into number nine. Yep.
And you were 12 years old at the time.
Yes, that was it was actually last week. No.
Go ahead.
What are you trying to schedule an appointment or?
I was just wondering. I was calling around. I thought I'd have a better chance of curing COVID than finding a dentist open on Saturday.
Yeah.
How does it work?
So I don't have any appointments available. We do walk-ins until 10 o'clock. I have one doctor today, so more than likely same day work probably wouldn't happen, but they could get you in for the exam and the X-ray and tell you what needs to be done. So you have to get here before 10. I don't have a spot on his schedule because he's booked and there's already one walk-in.
It's wicked painful.
Yeah, so you're more than welcome to come in as a walk-in if you can get here before 10 and we can get you seen and they can work up a treatment plan for you.
Now, mind you, this I think is 9 o'clock on a Saturday, so I think I had 1 hour to get there. I think that's what the scene was.
Yeah, but if you're in wicked pain, I think you would want to get there within an hour quickly as you can. But just back up for a second. I love something she said. She said like, well, are you trying to schedule an appointment? It's like, no, I'm calling you because I said I broke my front tooth and it's wicked painful. No, I'm not trying to schedule an appointment. I just wanted to tell you, like, it's like Miss Cleo, the fortune teller here. Now, now that I told you this, what do you see in my future, Miss Cleo? That was just a crazy comment. I also think the way she said, I have one doctor makes it sound like a clinic. It just doesn't sound very personal. Like, Dr. Jones is in this morning. Let me check her schedule, whatever. Just sounds so much nicer. I don't think that I have one doctor. I thought it was very cold.
Yeah, again, I forgot I was calling a dental office. She like seemed shocked that I was calling with a tooth problem. There was
I know.
all right,
So true.
let's continue here.
And how does it work with insurance?
We verify the insurance and they quote you in the back, depending on your coverage. What insurance do you have?
Just real quick, I feel like she's gonna take me in the back and they're gonna like rough me up. Like, what does that mean? Take you in the back?
It's such an example of, and the back is not dental lingo, so to speak, but it's definitely internal office lingo. We've got the front, the non-clinical area, and the back. And I agree. I was going to say something too, and I'm glad you did. When you said that they're gonna take you in the back and give you a quote. It does sound like they're gonna strap you to a chair and smack you until you say yes.
Yeah, I just
Just a
pictured this
horrible phrase.
back alley where they're gonna give me the
Right.
numbers and make me sign.
Right. They're gonna take you in the back. I love that.
Days like Obamacare.
We don't like the marketplace insurances. If it's like one of those plans, we don't accept those.
Things.
Medicaid.
I love how she says Medicaid. Like
She says it she's from my neck of the woods. That's like a kind of a Baltimore accent. I'm not sure where this office was you were calling, but
I usually Stephen for New Hampshire usually calls the South, the Southern offices. But I walked around all day that day going, I need a Band-Aid. I'm gonna give Novocaine. I love how she said that.
I also like how she said something about your insurance being in the marketplace.
I picture a farmer's market. Like I'm going to a farmer's market and there's 8 booths and I shop around to find out the best dental insurance.
And get some heirloom tomatoes at the same time.
Yep. All right, let's continue. We're almost done here.
Humana through Medicaid.
Hey.
But the Obamacare ones, I think those are the ones that go through Marketplace. Not if I'm understanding that correctly. But you can bring your card in and we could try to verify it.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Bye now.
All right, bye-bye.
What did she not do?
At the end, she made no attempt to get you in, which is really interesting because she said that, as you said, it was 9 a.m. She said we take walk-ins till 10 a.m. And first of all, she should have tried to get you an appointment, an actual real life appointment. But then at the least reminded you that, hey, we'd be glad to see you. We can, if you come in the next hour, we'd be glad to treat you as a walk-in. The doctor's here. We'll, give you a consultation, whatever. Encourage you to come in. Now, obviously, an appointment on the appointment schedule would be best, but she didn't even remind you to come in as a walk-in at the end. I think she was hoping that you just went away.
Yeah, I mean, good luck with that zinging toothache, have a good life. And I also think that maybe it was just like a pop-up dental office. Like they were only open one day out of the year, just that Saturday. Like, what about Monday? Like, can I get in on a Monday? Like it was just like Saturday or nothing.
Exactly. Is there such thing as a pop-up dental office? That could be a new thing.
Yeah, I think I found it. Or there was like this portal that it was only available to enter that portal, like in the Marvel comics, to get to this office on that one day on that Saturday. And don't get me
Wow.
wrong, I give them props for being open on a Saturday. But what about the other 364 days of the year? Like, they should have offered me to come in, the following week, maybe.
And maybe it was like a food truck of dental offices, and like on
Yeah.
Monday they were going to be in a different town in Massachusetts.
Yeah, agreed. Well, that was a
By the way, Eric, let me ask you. I like the way that you kept pausing the call for comments because on my podcast, the way I've always done it is I play the whole call, then I make comments afterwards. But I think I might try your technique. It's really interesting to stop the call, make some comments, then continue the call. You like it that way?
I do, especially when you're sharing some comments with a colleague like you. And again, that was like me serving a tennis serve to Andre Agassi there. So that was a joy for me to share a phony phone call with you.
Always my pleasure. I'll hit it back gently.
All right, so Dr. Richard Madow, where do we find out more about what you're up to? You can leave a website, an email, a phone number, and then I always like to wrap up with the second final question of what advice would you give to the young dental professionals out there?
Okay, well, first of all, contact is easy. My website is madow.com. It's spelled with one D, Madow.com. The best and my favorite way is to send me an email. I'll give my personal email on your show. It's just Rich, R-I-C-H, at Madow, Madow.com. So I'd love to hear from you, Rich at Madow.com, R-I-C-H at Madow.com. Wow, advice to a young dentist. It's such a loaded question, but um, I would say, and kind of along the lines of everything we've been thinking of, yes, get as clinically adept as you can. Take all the great clinical courses. I'll give it maybe multifaceted because this has a disclaimer to it. I see so many dentists, especially young dentists, try to get hung up in providing these esoteric treatments and taking these off the wall courses, spending a shitload of money. Am I allowed to say that on your podcast?
I think you already said it, so
I guess
it's fine.
spending
Yeah.
a shitload of money on equipment and technology, which I have nothing against. But clinically, think about what do most patients need. Most patients need, obviously, the basic exams, radiographs, etc. They need endo, core, and crown. They need scaling and root planing. They need implant abutment and crown. Um, Orthodontics with aligners these days, biggest no-brainer around. This is what people want. This is what they need. Don't try to find these crazy solutions that people don't want, can't pay for, et cetera, et cetera. Stick to the things that your patients really need. But along the same lines, and I think it's so important, and it's kind of our theme today, is that when you're hiring your team, when you're opening your practice, when you're learning your leadership skills, make sure that you're doing it with the enjoyment of your profession in mind. Don't think, well, I'm going to sacrifice and make myself work my butt off and be miserable to achieve the goal I want, because you're never going to achieve the goal you really want if you're miserable. So always keep that in mind. Make things great for you and for your team. The old adage, when I graduated dental school in 1984, and the old timers, they graduated 50 years before I did, and they put your hand in your shoulder and say, Rich, just treat patients well and you'll be successful. It's not horrible advice because treating patients well is the basic tenet of all dental practices. Provide an incredible experience, treat your patients well, but it's so much more complicated than that these days, as you know. So learn everything you can, but don't get hung up on just the data and just the technology and just the advanced treatment modalities. You're there every day with people you should enjoy and doing things you enjoy. And I know dentists who are 80 years old and still love it and enjoy every day. I know dentists who can't wait to quit by the time they're 50. So be the dentist. I'm not saying you should practice till you're 80, but have the attitude of that dentist.
That's great stuff. And Dr. Richard Madow will be at the first virtual Stress-Free Dentist Summit, which will be on October 29th, which is a Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. He'll be on the health and wellness panel. So thank you so much for joining us for that. And Dr. Richard Madow, such a great episode. Thank you so much for being on the podcast again.
It was my pleasure. Keep doing the great stuff you're doing. I'm so glad that we met and that we're friends. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks again for listening to the Stress-Free Dentist podcast. And don't hesitate to get in touch with me at info@thestressfreedentist.com. And if you haven't already, please subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Until the next episode, I'm Dr. Eric Block, the Stress-Free Dentist.